Despite its large cast of characters, Wings of Fire barely gives us the pleasure of being introduced in depth to the side characters featured. Oftentimes, we only get a hint of a backstory for a few characters before they leave the story entirely, with a prominent example being Hawthorne, who was pretty much killed off after being an exposition dump. I've got a bit attached to a few characters who I think should receive a bit more attention, and perhaps their own books from Tui. Here's a list of them, and what I'd imagine the books would be like. Before we get started, if you are new to this channel, may I recommend subscribing? I post a lot of Wings of Fire and Warrior Cats content, and try to make all of my content as interesting as possible. Your support would mean everything. Also, for my current subscribers, thank you so much for your continued support. I wouldn't have gotten here without y'all. For our first dragon, I'm gonna have to go with Mastermind. Mastermind is my favorite type of character, who is along the lines of Entrapta, which is mad scientist who will do anything for science. Unlike her, however, Mastermind faces consequences for siding with the bad guys. The Wings of Fire series takes place after dragons recede into what is pretty much a dark age after the fall of the Nightwing Empire due to Darkstalker. As such, technology is incredibly impaired and isn't very common. Mastermind is one of the few dragons who is trying to make technological improvements in the world. He just does this no matter what, and no matter if that progress is good or bad. He does seem to do what the Queen bids if only to get to his own projects though, and I'd be interested to know what his own scientific theories are. I'd also like to know whether his romances were forced or not. I can't imagine Mastermind being a romantic and actually dating someone instead of Morsi or setting up a romance with him, but I'm always free to be surprised. Number 9, Hawthorne. We already know the backstory of Hawthorne, however he comes off as an unreliable narrator due to him being isolated from other dragons and influenced by the other mind for so long. I feel like he got royally screwed over from Sequoia in his story, and it would be interesting to hear whether that was true and innocent seeming granny blood on her hands, or whether it was just the influence of the other mind making her seem evil for trying to do the right thing. We'd also get to know more about Sundew's lineage, most likely, as the Poison Wings split off from Sapwings because of this entire incident. Maybe Sundew's grandmother influenced him as well, or maybe she tried to persuade him not to try and use the Breath of Evil on Wasp. We'd also get to see Stalin becoming an assassin, as the Breath of Evil attack was meant to incapacitate Wasp. We'd also be able to see the dawning horror of realizing that the plan backfired and the Hivewings formed the Hive Mind, instead of him getting control of their queen. I just feel like there's a lot going on with him that needs to be explored, as I do for every other individual on this list. Next up, Webbs is a character who we know a lot and a little about at the same time. We know that he has a son and a now deceased wife. He loves history and is perhaps the favorite of the Guardians to the Dragonets, though Dune seems to be very close behind him. I feel it would be interesting to explore Webb's story similar to how we got Dune's story explored. How did he decide to join the Talons of Peace? Webbs had a family which he left behind. Did he suspect what was going to happen to them after he stole Toonami's egg? Did he feel guilty if he ever learned about what happened to his son and his wife, who was sent off into war with no training? How were the Guardians chosen exactly? Was it that anyone willing to steal an egg became a Guardian to reward their honor? Or were they chosen specifically off of their qualities, as most of the Guardians are older and have a nibbling or child? Alright, this next one is a tiny bit expected, but Thorne and Stone Mover. This one seriously needs to happen already. Tui's been teasing this to us since 2019, I believe, and has said that she's already drafted the book. Stone Mover would be my favorite perspective from this book, as we already have the Scorpion's Den perspective through Keebly and Sunny. Knowing more of what the Night Kingdom was like would be interesting, and I'd love a chance to see Moroseer more, though we could of course get that from the Mastermind book as well. Stone Mover's upbringing would be incredibly interesting. When did they find out that he was an animist? They don't have trials like the Sea Wings do. How did they find out actually? Was there an eruption from the volcano, he got scared and ended it? That's my theory. He likely had a lot of pressure on him at a young age. Maybe the Nightwing tribe forced him into doing lessons similar to an enemy's. Also, why did he decide to make his skills into stone? Was it simply a discouragement from doing spells? Or had he done something horrible already before he could stop himself and felt like he needed punishment? There's just a lot to explore when it comes to Animus Dragons, and I don't think we're going to be getting that in the next few arcs due to the deletion of Animus Magic thanks to Jerboa. Going back to a time where Animus Magic was more common might give us some of the answers we direly need. For our next dragon, I'm proud to choose Grandeur. Grandeur doesn't have any known backstory in the series other than her formerly being the sole queen of the RainWings and being the grandmother of Glory. However, Handsome, her partner, has mentioned the RainWings used to actually need their skills like Venom. That leads me to believe that the RainWings used to not be the peaceful tribe we know today. In Darkstalker, the other tribes viewed them as mercenaries and merchants, and it seems that reputation continued until maybe 100 years before modern day. This novella would answer two questions. What led the proud RainWings to drop their arms and become utter morons? And who did the RainWings fight before that? I believe those who they had to fight were the Nightwings in their first attempt at an invasion. The Nightwing Island has been dying off for a while now, long enough that there are no dragons in the tribe over the age of 50 besides maybe Battle Winter, because their lungs fill up with smoke and they have health conditions because of that. It would be amazing to see the RainWings' dangerous venom finally used in a war and not just a specialized attack. The next dragon I'm suggesting is another RainWing. It's Charmeleon. I'm gonna keep pronouncing it like that because it makes people annoyed, and annoyed people comment, and those comments are good for the YouTube algorithm, so maybe I'll just call him Charizard for this episode because a lot of you seem to think that I'm saying his name closer to Charizard than Chameleon. Chameleon? He's the only RainWing villain in the story who actually does something detrimental and not just petty to our heroes. He has a tragic backstory, however gradually he becomes evil and corrupted, as he leads a sheltered life in the rainforest and becomes obsessed with monetary objects. No matter what, Chameleon only looks out for himself and not other dragons. It would be interesting to learn if there were any exceptions, as he has betrayed his own daughter in the past. This novella would cover all the way from him leaving the rainforest to the end of the first task Charlotte assigns to him, which will likely be something severe like killing another member of his tribe or killing a rival general in order to assess his loyalty. What more can I say than I love a good, or evil, in this case, underdog story? I feel like this one may actually truly be unexpected, depending on what I have for the thumbnail, but we need a Hailstorm/Pyrite novella. For how big the reveal was that the Hailstorm was Pyrite, I feel like it had little impact on the story at large and wasn't followed up on well. I think this book would be a very good psychological horror, which Chewie can pull off pretty well, as shown by Jerboa 3's absolutely terrifying perspective in The Dangerous Gift, where her own mother was erasing her mind, and she had to kill her own mother. This book would cover all the way from Hailstorm's capture up until Winter Turning. It would be a bit longer than any novella existing right now, and it might actually end up being a Legends. I wonder if Hailstorm's necklace was ever accidentally taken off when he was with Scarlet. If that happened, would he even know he was Hailstorm? Or would he be Pyrite like he believes he was in Winter Turning, even after he became an Icewing? The long-lasting psychological impact would be interesting too. I, in fact, made a one-shot based on it back in 2018 on Amino. It's called The False Dragon, and I will not share my Amino username so you can search it up, because God, I was cringe back then and it's better off being left in the past. That's all I have to say about Hailstorm. I just think horror is neat. Mudwings have been consistently trampled upon by the series, so it wouldn't be fair to do this list and not add at least one Mudwing. Sora is the morally gray character who serves the role of a reluctant villain in the 6th book, who accidentally kills more dragons than she meant to. She feels immense guilt over that, however, would do the entire bombing over again if it meant killing Icicle. Though we've heard about her adversary Icicle after Moon Rising, we've not heard a peep about Sora and Umber, who fled from Jade Mountain and Academy with her. Naturally, this book will cover what they are currently doing. I think Sora and Umber would be nice to use in a Scavenger's plotline. I don't know why, but I just feel like they'd fit. If they weren't used in a Scavenger's plotline, maybe it could be a story about them trying to keep their heads down low as they're on the run. However, Umber ends up being romantically involved with someone who is a high position in society. Perhaps someone in the Enclave is too shown a will to bring it back. Sora doesn't like this new attention to them and decided that if needed, she would call Umber's boyfriend. That's a very far out there idea, something that would probably only exist in fanfiction, but whatever, they're Mudwings, they're an open book. I already have one character involved in the Tree Wars on this list, but I feel like the Tree Wars is a big enough subject to deserve its own super edition, with how just astronomical this event is in importance to the series. This book will have 3 perspectives, one from each tribe, as what normally happens in Legends books. If this book gets made, then the Hawthorne book will not be made, as Hawthorne is the Leaf-Wing perspective. The Hive-Wing perspective has to be Lady Scarab. She is my favorite character already, as she is sour but has a good heart. I'm sure she has a lot to say about Queen Moth's takeover when it happens, as she still does to this day. The Silkwing perspective is not any dragon mentioned in the books, but a completely new character. Her name is Chrysalis. Yes, as in the Silkwing movement. Somehow she's related to Queen Monarch, likely a bastard child, as that hasn't been done in Wings of Fire before, and I feel like it would be really interesting, especially with the way the monarchy works. The plot for this book will likely start with Queen Monarch signing a peace treaty and handing over her tribe. At the 1/3 point, Hawthorne poisons Queen Wasp at pressure from Queen Sequoia, despite his conscience. Part 2 will be the Tree War. I'm sure all of our characters will be required for the battle. Lady Scarab watches as her friends are mind-controlled and sent off into the war. At the very end of this part, the city of the Leafwings is burned and they are forced to retreat into the poison jungle. Part 3 is the Leafwings actually going there. Hawthorne gets blamed for everything that happens and is exiled. Lady Scarab and Chrysalis decide that Wasp is gang scary, and then now she's in the Highwings' minds, it might be the last chance for them to stop her before she actually is able to take over the Silkwings too. Chrysalis leads the last uprising of Silkwings and is crushed. She is considered martyr by them and is used in the revolutionary movement, with her name becoming its. It's a tiny bit depressing of an end, but whatever, so it could be much darker. The Scorching is another historical event that the entire series seems to revolve around. Despite all the characters seeming to know what it is and what the event actually was, it is never told to us readers, creating quite an air of mystery around it. This book would work more like an anthology than a super edition, jumping around to Dragon's perspectives as needed. I'm sure the Tui would be able to pull this off and create a cohesive narrative, as the Dangerous Gift jumped around perspectives a lot and turned out to be mostly fine with the exception of the excessive filler. I think it would be fun to have a mystery character who we aren't told anything about, who is a through line in the story, connecting all the individual characters together. If you've read The Inquisitor's Tale, I think this character would serve the same role as the Inquisitor. That's all of my ideas. Copyright me, 2022, do not steal. I'm just kidding, feel free to make stories from these and send them to me. I wouldn't make this video if I was not starved for content on these characters. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. I make Warrior Cats and Wings of Fire videos pretty often, and your support would mean a lot to me. And to those who are already subscribed, thank you for your continued support. I wouldn't have gone here without y'all. Peace, Rogan out.